Locally covered, nationally connected. The clock ticking down on TikTok. The Supreme Court upholding a ban on the platform that'll go dark in just 48 hours. What it means for millions of users and the future of Chinese-operated social media apps in the United States. Then bracing for frigid temperatures, dangerous wind chills, life-threatening conditions, how it's impacting Monday's presidential inauguration in a way not seen in decades. And early menopause, one woman sharing her journey so other women can recognize the condition and live a more quality life. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. It's official. The Supreme Court has cleared the way for a TikTok ban to take effect on Sunday. Roughly 120 million Americans are on the platform, and it's still unclear how much access they will have to the app in the coming days. With just 48 hours left in his term, President Biden says it's now up to the Trump administration to enforce the law, something President-elect Donald Trump said he wanted to delay. Let's get right to national correspondent Atral Nashar, who has a closer look at what could happen next.
The Supreme Court has unanimously spoken. A national security law forcing a divestiture of TikTok from its Chinese parent company ByteDance, or else face a ban on the 19th, is constitutional. Their ruling says data collection and analysis is a common practice in this digital age. But TikTok's scale and susceptibility to foreign adversary control, together with the vast swaths of sensitive data the platform collects, justify differential treatment to address the government's national security concerns. Last spring, 80% of Congress agreed the national security concerns were so great, it was worth risking a ban on an app with 170 million U.S. users.
There was a reason that the House Energy and Commerce Committee voted 50-0 after a classified brief.
Even the Supreme Court said the government had good reason to single out TikTok for special treatment. The one to bring this issue to the forefront? Former President Donald Trump. He tried to ban TikTok with an executive order in 2020. Now that Trump believes the platform boosted his profile with young voters,
I'm going to save TikTok.
The ban is set to take effect Sunday, President Biden's last full day in office. Perhaps not how he'd want his presidency to end. Now, the White House says given the timing, they're leaving the implementation of the law up to Trump.
Friday, Trump posting on Truth Social, "My decision on TikTok will be made in the not-too-distant future, but I must have time to review the situation. Stay tuned."
Anyone telling you these are easy or simple questions is not being honest or truthful.
TikTok CEO Shou Chu.
I want to thank President Trump for his commitment to work with us to find a solution that keeps TikTok available in the United States.
A president's executive authority only goes so far when a law like this is already in place. It was designed to be pretty airtight after the January 19th deadline. On Capitol Hill, I'm Atral Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Atra, thank you. Meanwhile, President-elect Trump says he spoke with Chinese President Xi Jinping earlier today and that TikTok was among the topics they discussed. No further details were given about that part of their conversation. Trump says they also talked about trade, the fentanyl problem, and a variety of other topics. He called it a very good call for both the U.S. and China. China's foreign ministry says Xi congratulated Trump on his second term and said he hopes for improved U.S.-Chinese relations. Tonight, the ceasefire deal agreed to on Wednesday has officially been approved by Israel's security cabinet. That means on Sunday, Hamas is expected to begin releasing hostages. Now, this is a three-phased deal. In the first phase, 33 hostages will be released. It's unclear how many of those returned will be alive. Two dual American-Israeli men are expected to be released in that group, a 65 and 36-year-old. But the New Jersey-based parents of hostage Idan Alexander are waiting to learn the fate of their son.
It's very emotional to know that the deal is coming. We are not sure that our son is in the list, and we don't know when we are going to see him.
The first phase also calls for Israel to begin withdrawing troops from heavily populated areas in Gaza. Over the span of 6 weeks, warring sides have agreed to continue negotiating the terms of a second phase, which would see more hostages released, more troops withdrawn, and further cement an end to the 15-month war. Tonight, nearly 300 million Americans are about to get hit with a polar vortex from Siberia. Frigid air moving through the Rockies and Great Plains tonight, and it will expand this weekend. And the cold is forecast to cross the Deep South and Great Lakes tomorrow. The Rockies, Northern Plains, and Upper Midwest will experience dangerous wind chills of -30 or lower. Arctic air will reach the eastern seaboard on Sunday and bring negative wind chills to the southern plains and Ohio Valley. Below average temperatures will likely linger in the Gulf Coast and southeast through much of next week. In Jefferson County, Texas, officials are testing trucks that they're going to need to sand roads to protect them from ice.
Safety is the key. I want your family to come home just like I want my family to come home. The best thing I could say, stay home, stay off the road.
A fire at a battery storage facility around 80 miles south of San Francisco is almost out. That's according to officials. Over 1,000 people are under evacuation orders because toxic chemicals could be released. The fire broke out yesterday from an unknown cause, not related, by the way, to those ongoing wildfires in Los Angeles, which we'll have more on later in the show. And take a look at this. Amazingly, no injuries reported after an MTA bus crashed through a roadway barrier in the Bronx in New York City this morning. This bus can be seen hanging from an elevated roadway over another. The bus went through a guardrail before hitting the wall. Again, no injuries reported. Witnesses say the bus driver had a hard time making a turn because a car parked legally on the side was sticking out just far enough to impact that turn. Capital One disruptions continue for a second day. Thousands of Capital One users began reporting issues with depositing money yesterday, and those disruptions have increased this morning into the afternoon. The bank is attributing the problems to technical issues with a third-party vendor. In the meantime, customers' deposits or businesses' financial transactions could be delayed. It's unclear how long the problem will persist. Ohio Lieutenant Governor John Husted will replace Vice President-elect J.D. Vance in the Senate. Governor Mike DeWine announced that appointment today. DeWine also considered Vivek Ramaswamy, who's working on government efficiency, but he'll likely run for governor in 2026 instead. Husted will serve as senator until 2026 and could run again in a special election. The Senate continued confirmation hearings, meantime, for Donald Trump's cabinet. Today, Homeland Security Secretary nominee Kristi Noem took the stand, highlighting the immigration and border policies that Trump made a huge part of his campaign. National correspondent Matt Gelka reports that it looks like he'll get a win from Congress right out the gate.
Border security must remain a top priority.
Donald Trump's pick to lead the Department of Homeland Security, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, told senators at her confirmation hearing she'd move quickly to act on Trump's immigration plans, namely mass deportations, which Trump has vowed his administration will carry out.
425,000 plus people have criminal convictions that are here illegally in this country that our current administration is doing nothing to round them up and get them out of our country. We will be doing that immediately, and that will be the priority.
As the inauguration gets closer, the border and immigration plans are starting to come into focus. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis called a special session in his state aimed at backing an immigration crackdown.
State and local officials in Florida must help the Trump administration enforce our nation's immigration laws.
Meanwhile, Congress is set to give Trump a bipartisan immigration win. The Laken Riley Act, named for a Georgia nursing student killed by an undocumented immigrant who had previous arrests on his record, cleared a key hurdle in the Senate on Friday.
The motion is agreed to.
10 Democrats joined Republicans and moved the bill for a final vote likely to happen Monday evening after Trump is sworn in.
I think that the whole country recognizes that we've had a crisis at our southern border. My obligation is not to consider the politics, but to consider my state's interests and my national interest, and that's what I'll keep doing.
The Democratic shift is the continued fallout from brutal 2024 election results for the party. Mostly swing state Dems were among the 10 voting to advance the bill.
I am heartened to see so many of my Democratic colleagues come out in favor of this common sense, straightforward legislation. But we can't lose focus now.
And that bill would let ICE agents detain undocumented immigrants charged with theft and burglary, and it increases the chances of deportation. It also allows states to sue over immigration policies.
And Matt, what's been some of the pushback you've heard from Democrats who are against this bill?
Well, it's a few different things. Part of it has to do with due process. The bill allows for detainment for just charges of theft and burglary, not convictions. Another part is cost. ICE estimates they detain more than 100,000 additional people under that bill, and they would need north of $20 billion to do it. And there's also worry that allowing lawsuits would give states too much power in shaping federal policy.
All right, the debate continues. We know you'll stay on top of it. Matt Galka live from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much. Coming up, the company now under investigation in Southern California as the wildfire death toll rises. Then the widely used medications that could soon be more affordable thanks to a policy change. And later, the mixed reactions in one state to a bill that would ban trans athletes from women's sports at certain schools. We'll be back. Tonight, as we continue to track those devastating fires in Southern California, the death toll has gone up. Authorities now report 27 people have died as a result of those flames, 18 people missing. Some Angelenos have been able to return to their homes or what's left of them, but far from everyone. We have 170,000 people still under evacuation orders or warnings. Many people across several Southern California evacuation zones won't be able to return for weeks or longer. Many of the evacuees are organizing ways to help within their communities, leaning on each other like never before.
There's some level of healing power in that, to see everyone band together in this time of tragedy and make sure that we are looking out for one another, even when we know that resources might, falter later.
This as investigators try to figure out what sparked these fires. The ATF is tasked with figuring out what started the biggest of them all, the Palisades fire. But the probe will take time. With the fire still burning, officials can't get on the ground until the area is rendered safe.
We bring chemists, we bring investigators, we bring certified fire investigators, certified explosive investigators, forensic people, and we literally look at under every stone, both literally and figuratively.
Authorities are reportedly investigating the local utility company, Southern California Edison, And they also haven't ruled out arson. But as authorities investigate, help and relief efforts are underway all across the country. And that includes from our parent company, Sinclair Incorporated, which is partnering with the Salvation Army for Sinclair Cares, which helps provide essential meals, fresh water, and supplies to the hardest hit area. So if you want to know more information or if you want to do more, scan the QR code right there on your screen or go to sinclaircares.com. President Joe Biden recognized the Equal Rights Amendment passed in 1972 as the law of the land, and as of today, the 28th Amendment to the Constitution. The amendment guarantees men and women equal rights under the law. But here's the problem. 38 states need to ratify a new amendment, and the deadline to do so after the initial extension was 1982. Virginia, the 38th state to do so, finally ratified it in 2020, 38 years too late. The National Archives says the amendment can't be certified because the deadline was missed, making today's proclamation largely symbolic. President Biden is commuting another 2,500 sentences, this time for people convicted of nonviolent drug offenses. He says these sentences are disproportionately long when compared to some of the same offenses would get for people today. It includes things like now discredited distinctions between crack and powder cocaine. The move gives Biden the presidential record for the most individual pardons and commutations issued. President-elect Trump says his inauguration will be held indoors in the Capitol Rotunda for the first time since 1985 because of the extreme cold that's forecast. It's only expected to be around 20 degrees on Monday with single-digit wind chills. Trump says people can also watch the ceremony from the Capital One Arena, where the presidential parade will take place. Some guests say they're disappointed in the change.
Not thrilled. Not thrilled.
I think it's a joke. I think you're joking. Honestly, I'm going to cry. We've been really looking forward to this. We've been planning it since he was elected.
It is what it is. You know, we have no control over it. You know, I hate that it's happening that way.
The future of the government's official immigration app is in question. CBP One helps facilitate entries into the United States for migrants who book appointments in Mexico. More than 1 million migrants have been granted 2-year permits with work eligibility through the app under the Biden administration. Trump could end it as part of his immigration crackdown. Supporters say it has brought order to the border and reduced illegal crossings. Critics say it prioritizes a lottery system over those who have waited years for visas. A look inside the numbers. Marriage trends are shifting in the United States, according to new Pew Research analyses. Divorce rates hit a record low of 1.4% in 2023. The percentage of single adults dropped from 44% in 2019 to 42% in 2023. And the percentage of married adults went up a percentage point in that time frame. Experts say the change may be because people are getting married later in life, making them more selective about their partners than previous generations. The cost of popular weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy may go down. They're being added to Medicare's list of drugs that will be negotiated directly between the government and manufacturers. The Biden administration says other medications that treat asthma, arthritis, and forms of cancer are also being added to the list. It's part of President Biden's law legalizing that deal-making for Medicare, which has saved taxpayers billions of dollars. However, it is now up to the Trump administration to negotiate.
At the end of the day, this is going to be about saving lives and keeping people healthier. President Biden, at least for 4 years, not only left America healthier, he left it stronger. So that's a pretty good prescription for success. I hope the next secretary will follow that.
And in tonight's health report, a young runner who says it took her a long time to get help for some unusual symptoms is sharing her story. As medical reporter Liz Bonus explains, she hopes it'll help other women speak up.
Hey there, everybody. If you've been struggling with symptoms that include foggy thinking or even low energy, one woman says you may need to be your own advocate.
As a competitive marathon runner, Susan Sullivan says these symptoms and a few others.
I was noticing sleeplessness and newfound anxiety.
Really started to slow her down. As a physical therapist, she says what was really alarming was
I was going out to meet my client and not even recognizing their face, much less being able to put a name to their face and it was terrifying to me.
Finally, she says, after years of providers giving her no answers, she connected with Dr. Betsy Leroy, who, as it turned out, was also a running partner, who specializes in women's health, early hormone changes, and menopause as part of Ohio's Tri-Health Women's Services.
So by really sitting down and talking with Susan, we were able to come up with a really individualized plan.
That plan provided what Susan, not necessarily of menopausal age,
the average age is anywhere between maybe 45 and 55,
really needed to feel like herself again. Hormone therapy, along with diet changes, helped her energy. Getting her sleep cycles in balance got rid of the brain fog. And marathon training with a few adjustments helped manage some of the anxiety.
I feel so much better. It's just been a godsend.
She says finding a qualified menopause practitioner as soon as you notice some of these symptoms can help set you up for success. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
All right, Liz, thank you. Coming up, the piece of evidence that led to an arrest in a 25-year-old double homicide cold case in Florida. We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in California with reaction to a transgender athlete bill.
On Tuesday, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to pass the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act in a 218 to 206 vote. It'll block transgender athletes from taking part in athletic programs for women and girls at federally funded schools, with the bill saying, quote, sex shall be recognized solely on a person's reproductive biology and genetics at birth. Matt Sharp with the Alliance Defending Freedom tells me their team is in support of the vote, calling this event a momentous day for women. North State Equal Rights advocate Bobby Simpson tells me she has questions about the goals of the legislation. Simpson instead wants to see more of an emphasis on subjects like education, saying she hopes it does not move forward through the next stages.
Heartbreak turned to horror as the family of 21-year-old Alex Montesino learned a video of his death had been shared on social media.
For them, specifically for them doing that is really scary.
Cell phone video obtained by NBC 10 shows the clip that passed through the hands of at least 2 Rhode Island State troopers. Rhode Island State Police launched an investigation into the video through the Professional Standards Unit. In a statement to NBC 10, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Kramer says, quote, the investigation has been concluded, and we are in the process of determining appropriate discipline. The behavior exhibited by the troopers involved does not reflect the values of the Rhode Island State Police. Our thoughts are with the grieving family, end quote.
Cold case detective Paul Taylor with the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office says they finally pieced together enough evidence to make an arrest in the October 2000 murders of 77-year-old Robert Hardwick and the woman he planned to marry, 58-year-old Vernice Reese of Fort Pierce. Detectives say 58-year-old Julian Romero, a Honduran citizen, murdered the couple inside their home on Kings Highway and set the place on fire. He then stole Hardwick's Oldsmobile Alero and drove it to Wilton Manors. From there, the case went cold until 2023 when Detective Taylor took a new look at it.
We went through, started organizing things, and we sent a bunch of things off for DNA.
He says their big break came when they determined that a photo of a girl on a keychain found in the victim's stolen car was that of Romero's daughter.
The Miami Dolphins are getting a new home next year, at least for one game, where they'll be playing and why it's creating NFL history. The NFL will make history again, this time when the Miami Dolphins host the first ever regular season game in Madrid, Spain. The NFL has expanded its international footprint into Germany and Brazil in recent seasons. The date and opponent for the Dolphins will be released in the spring. This as the Final Four in each conference prepare for the divisional round in the NFL playoffs. Tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, the Houston Texans will kick off against the two-time defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And then in the nightcap, the Washington Commanders head to Detroit to play the #1 seeded Lions at 8. On Sunday at 3 p.m., the Los Angeles Rams take on the Eagles in Philadelphia, where there's a 90% chance of snow during the game. Then the marquee matchup of the weekend, the two league MVP favorites go head-to-head as the Buffalo Bills host the Baltimore Ravens at 6:30 p.m. No matter who wins, we know it's going to set up a great championship weekend next week. That does it for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching and have a great weekend.